Come to me and
Hello and welcome. We're going to be taking a quick look at a conversation happening right now between Jeran and Jason Lindgren. They're talking about the final experiment.
So we think that there's no way you can fake it, that there's no way you could pull that off. Not with so many people down there, not with everybody looking at the sun. So if you can't fake it, then we're really going down to determine whether or not it's there. And I think that we're...
So the reason why I'm doing this, many of you guys may know a few months ago, we interviewed someone named Will Duffy. He's putting on the final experiment, paying for several people to go down to Antarctica at a specific time. Actually, I think it's December 14th of this year in order to capture a 24-hour sun and to try to find evidence one way or another to either prove a globe Earth or a flat Earth model. And so I think Austin Whitsitt and Jeran Campanella from Jeranism are going to actually go on the trip. Trip's still planned. And it's kind of an update, if you will, to that conversation we had several months ago. And so here, Jason is interviewing Jeran tonight, talking about some of the details of the trip. They've actually already started the interview, so you may want to go watch the whole thing. It's on Jason's channel, Secrets of Saturn, but we're just going to jump in and listen to a little bit as they explain expectations for the trip and how Jeran's preparing for it.
People don't trust mainstream, and I don't either, right? I say, I hate everything about the mainstream. But I also think that when something is true, we just need to call it for what it is and then build your beliefs around that, but not deny the truth around us. So have I seen anything that makes me say that about the globe? No, not yet. Certainly not. But am I willing to admit that a circling sun down there does require me to have some humility? And absolutely. Because what it means, people want me to come back and be like, I still believe it. But that's like lying to people, because what it's saying is that I've been wrong about this for all these years, but I'm still right. I've been wrong about everything I've been teaching for 9 years, but I'm still right.
Well, it's intellectually dishonest, and I respect you for saying, "Hey, what I find is what I find, and that's what I'm going to report."
Right, and you don't have to listen to me if you don't like. I hope nobody asks for my opinion. Just ask me, Jeran, did the sun set or did it not? Yes, it set, or no, it didn't. And then you can make up your own mind. But it shouldn't matter what I say unless you're one of my audience members who's like, "Hey, I listened to Jeran and I like to hear what he believes and why." But I've always said it's easy for me to tell people my beliefs. If you ask me about anything, Jeran, do you think this happened? Or do you think this event happened? Or do you think that girl died at January 6th? When I give you an answer, I'm going to be able to tell you why I believe that. So I don't just have beliefs willy-nilly. I base it off of evidence that I find. And so I can always explain everything that I believe. So if I came back and now all of a sudden the sun is doing that, it would just be embarrassing to be like somebody who says, well, yeah, the globe called exactly for that, but I don't look at it anymore. I think the flat, and then, well, how does it work in the flat Earth? I have no idea. That to me is not a good position to be in. And that's never been the position of a flat earther. I've always been kind of, that felt like I had the intellectual high ground, or at least the evidential background, because, a lot of the model of the globe is numbers and math. And I know how scaling and variance works. And I know that we can change those numbers and it wouldn't change anything, that you can, if you're going to bring the sun half as close, bring everything else half as close and change all the gravity of the math.
And the famous line from Red's Rhetoric from like 2016, math is reality. Wait, math is reality. It's not though.
You've got these guys saying like, we're not giving flat Earth any time because it just gives them credence or lends them validity, which has just always been the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because when somebody says something that's not wrong, that somebody says something that's wrong, you debunk it. You do give it time to debunk it, and then that's all the time it gets. So like science, Neil deGrasse, Bill Nye, one of these guys should have brought flat Earth up, put on a Fox show, debunk it, and then it goes away. That's not giving flat Earth validity, that's debunking it. But they can't do that. They haven't done that. They all hide and say we don't want to talk about it. So that to me has been good reason for me to think that the Earth is flat. On top of everything else, water does measure flat. We do see too far over distance. those things are facts. The beliefs that the whole story of the heliocentric system is a lie. I mean, as far as how it came about, I'm not even sure Copernicus or these guys lived, to be honest with you. That they seem like, according to Anatoly Fomenko.
Someone live chat's asking, when are they going exactly? I think the trip is scheduled for December 14th, and it's going to be from what I understand, it's 2 hours down, or 2 days, 2 days of a trip to get down there, 2 days to get back, and then they're going to be down there, I think, for about 5 or 6 days, trying to actually film an entire 24-hour time period of the sun's movements
around this, because that's what they would see, right? They would see, if they know they're not moving and they see a moon go around and set and a moon go around and set, they would say, okay, the moon's going around every day. Then when Copernicus came along, he would have said, no, we're actually going around the sun, and the moon goes around us monthly, right? So that's a huge change, and there's no mention of it anywhere. You'll not find in one book them talk about the fact that they're going to change this. They had to reverse the direction of the moon and change its orbital period from 24 hours, 50 minutes into 27 and a half days. So it's those which tell me that these things are not real history. Aristophanes and his Sticks and Shadows, he has no books, no records. It's all people who wrote about him. Everything about the fact that they say that the reason we found the distance to the sun is because they assumed that Venus was the same size of Earth. And when they did that and saw a transit, they were able to do the math and get the sun distance. And then they did all these things around it. And yet,
so just in case anyone's trying to understand, Jeran, he does not. You guys may remember I've had a long discussion with him many years ago, but on my channel, on his channel, he does not subscribe to the Bible being truth. So he does not subscribe to a biblical creation model, but he is what's in the realm of what's modernly called a flat earther. But he doesn't believe that we're on a ball in space in a gravity situation with heliocentrism. In fact, he's been searching for evidence since 2015 in order to figure out what exactly it is. So he's more of like an agnostic, really more of trying to find hard evidence that he can stand on to actually put together a working model for where we are through observations. So he's done multiple experiments, some with lasers, some with observations. He was actually misrepresented in I think it was the 2017 Netflix documentary called Behind the Curve, and where they basically did some shady editing to make him and the rest of the flat earther guys look bad. And so he was in that as well. And so he's just going down there. He's trying to take this offer to go on this trip to get more evidence, basically, to try to prove one way or the other.
And then the idea of flying through space, a vacuum existing next to a pressurized system like this doesn't really make any sense, to me. It's just not something that can really be understood. They say, oh, it's a gradient, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. It's like, okay, whatever you say. But as far like space must not be a vacuum. I mean, I think that probably that's what's going to come out eventually, is that that idea is only because the Earth, to move through space, it needs to be through a vacuum. That's the only reason that the space is a vacuum, is because otherwise then the Earth can't move and it can't spin and it can't do anything, or else whatever we're spinning in would be detectable, number one, and number two, it would rip off the atmosphere. If we're traveling at any speed through anything, the atmosphere would be gone, the Earth would be retarded, the spin would slow. None of that happens. So they have to say we must be traveling through a frictionless medium that doesn't impede any of our movements. So again, these things are just stories. What do you have? Aristotle, I think, said nature abhors a vacuum, right? Vacuums are not. And I think another problem that people do is they say that, well, they love to put us in space. And I think that's a folly. I think that I'm weary of things that we were taught and then we just assume are true. Like, so we have this idea of the Earth existing in space. But if you were just born here, let's say me and you were born in a forest, we're growing up, we're 10 years old, 15 years old. I don't think that we would say, okay, we must be placed in somewhere. We might just say the Earth is all there is. This is it. We're here, we're created, something happened, and the Earth is all that there is. So it's a illogical, or a, what do you call it, non-congruent, or a, David Avocado Wolf says it best. He says it's irrational. So he says the Earth is irrational, kind of it's meant to not be figured out, which may be the case, I don't know. But he says because the sky appears to be of spherical nature, but the Earth seems to be flat. So it's like a paradox. It's like meant to be that way.
So someone in the live chat's asking, Hunter's asking, what's my confidence level of a 24-hour sun?
Data, like you said, data is king.
And it depends on if they're actually taking them to the spot they claim they're taking them to. If they are, and then it's definitely not going to be a 24-hour sun. If they're actually taking them to that specific spot,
You just nailed it.
then
need as much information.
you would not have, because the descriptions of Enoch and the creation model, you would not have a 24-hour sun.
Are you gonna make the sun circle? And they're like,
So,
no. Right. So if you don't know if it circles,
but that's the part that I hope that they can document as well on their trip, is the actual traveling process.
Everybody will know whether or not the sun circles, and then we can go back to the drawing board and we can see if there's a map that works with those observations. But to demonize us and claim that we're globers already or so, it's just so stupid. And the fact that people even believe it is even dumber.
Well, I hate to say it like this, but what it reminds me of is that people are reacting emotionally, kind of like, I always make fun of them. I always say, like, the super lefties, they don't care about facts, they only care about feelings. And that's how people are reacting. The ones who are coming after you are reacting emotionally. They're not reacting intellectually. I mean, it is what it is. What you see is what you see, and you're not going to be the only one witnessing it. And that's that.
Well, then as far as the chest cam, the reason I'm doing that is because I figured, okay, so if we just go down and take just a time lapse, anybody can say that's doctored or whatever. But while I'm taking the time lapse, I'm going to be constantly recording from my chest. So you're going to be able to see everything that's going on. And then the people who pay the $20 are going to get that footage right when I get back. But it's going to be like you went to Antarctica. It's going to be like 30 hours of footage that you paid $20 for, that you kind of get to go on the trip with me, as far as taking off from Punta Arenas. Because think about it. These are things that I can't even imagine. When you leave Punta Arenas, you're going to be flying for about 45 minutes over water, and then should come just vast snow in every direction and mountains of ice. That's crazy to me. I've never seen something like that. As far as the eye can see, that's going to be Antarctica, supposedly. Also, at that point, and this is kind of something we'd have to think about, we might know before we even land what the results are going to be. Because if we leave at the time we're supposed to, which is around noon, the sun will be behind us in the south. We're going to leave Punta Arenas. If we start going down south and the sun follows us, then the sun is going around the earth. It's going around that side. It's going that way. Or if we see it kind of going off into the distance, well, then it does what the flat earth calls for. So we'll kind of know if the sun is, when we land in Punta Arenas, and when we land in Antarctica, if we look up and the sun is right there in our west in the sky, that's pretty good evidence it's not over above Australia. So, but we'll see. We're going to get there. We're going to film it. My hope is that I can get a good, clean 5-day circling time lapse.
How long are you actually going to be there in Antarctica for?
So 14th through the 18th. So like half day 14, then 15, 16, 17, and then half day 18. So like 4 full days.
So you're going to be there long enough to make an accurate determination.
Unless they're going to block it with clouds, or it's going to be overcast. But again, even Duffy said, even the pastor said, if that happens, that's evidence of flat earth. Because there's just no way in the middle of the summer that we should have 4 days of clouded sky where you can't see the sun at all. But it could be something that they would do. In fact, somebody said,
well, no matter, now wait a second. I mean, either I live in Louisiana, where it's quite often stormy and cloudy and all that. You still know the difference between whether it's daylight or nighttime. I mean, come on. That's not a hard thing to determine, no matter how cloud covered the sky is.
Hold on. So we do think that there is 24 hours of daylight. So I think that's been proven for a long time. So we've never said that doesn't take place. Now there's an answer for it that people call the coffee cup caustic, which is simply if you take a light to the edge of a bowl or a coffee cup or a circular thing, that it reflects the light all the way around the outer edge. So if there were some sort of dome and the sun got too close to the outside edge of the earth, it would then light up all of Antarctica 24 hours a day. Even if the sun took off in the other direction, it would still leave Antarctica lit. That's what the coffee cup caustic calls for. So that's not in contention. I don't expect it to get dark, but I do, it's going to get darker when the sun's not above the horizon than when it is above it, but it's not going to get completely dark. And it's just snow out there. They make you wear these certain kind of glasses and you have to wear goggles on top of the glasses. I was like looking into why. Like people have gotten blind from there, which is crazy to me. It's just because the sun is out there full time. It's glaring off the snow.
It's reflecting, right? Yeah.
People have been blind. So you have to wear glasses that have like sidebars or side pieces. And then you have to wear goggles on top of the glasses. So kind of crazy. But anyway, the trip seems like it's on the up and up. I mean, as far as ALS, I've had to talk to them a few times. They are providing a generator for us, which was nice because you can't fly with any of this stuff. Even like a little handheld one that's like a little, maybe the size of a lunch pail, you can't fly with those. They basically, the most they'll let you fly with is like a little tiny foam brick, which you can bring 2 of them on. So we kind of started to stress out a little bit. I did find out, I think I'm going to mail some stuff down to the hotel that I'm staying at down there. So I can get some stuff down there that otherwise I wouldn't be able to take on the plane. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like, and for me, as far as Will Duffy goes, he's been iffy. He's got a little weird smile. I went and had to watch his old videos and see that, okay, he did have that weird smile when he was a financial advisor, because there's videos of him on YouTube doing financial advising and financial planning. And he has the same kind of smirk, same kind of smile when somebody else is talking. So that seems normal. Or not normal.
Well, I've been thinking about this since we first started talking about it. I still don't see where he benefits. Not for the amount of money that's being laid down.
No, unless, I don't know. My only thought is that if I picture let's say I've got 9 million in the bank and I'm being a pastor, so we're just living off that money. And if I had some idea like this where I'm like, okay, well, I really want to prove this one way or the other, and I want my name to be behind it, then could I tell my wife, hey, I want to take a couple people down there. It's going to cost $130,000. And would she be okay with that? Well, if you have 9 million in the bank, I was telling Dave Weiss that, and he's like, yeah, but he's got $500,000. It's a potential fine coming at him. I'm like, okay, well, still with $9 million, I don't think I would really be that worried about 500,000. So I'm like, to me, I can just put myself in his position and say, he's bored. He doesn't, he has this channel that he's made. Basically the last year he spent on this entire trip, he does videos 3-4 times a week. They look like they're pretty professionally done. He says he does them by himself, but it's one other guy that helps him or something. But anyway, but one thing that I thought that we were going to catch him in that we really haven't. So people call him a liar. Let me just explain one thing that he did lie about. So a week before the reveal of who was the owner of that channel or who was the creator of it, he was on with Sean Griffin doing an interview. And he's the one that asked Sean Griffin, hey, Sean Griffin, have you heard about this final experiment? And Sean's like, no, I don't think so. He's like, oh, I think they emailed a bunch of people about this. And he's like, oh, I did see an email. I don't know what it's about. He's like, oh, well, I guess they're going to take some people down to Antarctica. And then Sean Griffin said, oh, do you know who is in charge of the channel? And Will Duffy says, no, I don't know. So then a week later, it comes out that it was him. Now, people flipped out, called him a liar. Even I did. But then I had to kind of take a step back and go, okay, is it a lie if you lie to somebody with the knowledge that they will find out? Like if your daughter came to you and said, hey, are you buying me this thing for Christmas? And you would say no, right? Because you're not deceiving her. You are deceiving her. You're not trying to lie to her like for life. You know that in a week she's going to find out that you got her the damn thing that she wanted, right? So he's kind of said the same thing, like, yeah, I knew that he would find out who I was. So is it really a lie? Anyway, there was other things that were being said about him that he was lying about. And I tried to follow up on him, and it ended up that it was the flat earthers not being honest. And that was like, okay, guys, stop demonizing him. Like people said, he's not an actual pastor. Somebody went to his church and there was a sign on the door that said closed for renovation and nobody was there when it was supposed to be Bible study. I'm like, oh man, we got it. Right? Like if that was true, then I would bail. I would say, I'm not going on this trip. You're a liar. So I found out what channel they're talking about. I went to the channel. It was Sav's channel. I said, Sav, did you have a guy come on the other night and say that he was at Duffy's church at a time when Duffy was supposed to be there? He's like, oh yeah. Like, can you give me that video? I want to watch it. So I get the video and I watch it, and the guy's there, but he's there at 8:30 and Bible studies from 7 to 8. He's there at 8:30 and he says, and it looks like it's being renovated. So there's nobody had a sign on the door. And when Duffy was confronted with that, Duffy said, that guy's lying. I guarantee you he doesn't have any video or any photo of any sign on any door. And he wasn't there at the time I was supposed to be there because I was there. So he was very clear about it. And I was like, oh, we got him. We can just prove it. Well, no, I went and looked, and it turns out he was there from 7 to 8, not there at 8:30 when the guy was there walking around. And there was no sign on the door that said renovation. The guy just said, it looks like it's being renovated. Well, yeah, it's a shitty church. So it could look like it's being renovated. But anyway, then you kind of you're like, man, people are calling him a liar, but he's really not being a liar. He's just, saying what he's saying. But I haven't caught him in any big lies. Again, people are like, well, what about the financial crimes? I don't know what went on there. That's not, how can I look into that? That's a case that they're going to decide between him and his clients, I guess, right? They go to like arbitration. And so again, is he the best financial advisor? Well, I would say the fact that he's not one now tells us. He obviously either lost his license or got fired or something. So obviously he's not.
Seemed to have happened. Yeah. From what you're telling me, the guy seems like there's just some shadiness behind him, but what it is, it's just it's a little
shady. But then again, like Dave Weiss might have some comments. I'm like, Dave, are you telling me that I'm supposed to believe though that this guy has been told the earth is flat, but he's acting against it? And I'm like, and he's a preacher, but he's not a preacher. Like, I don't really get it. Like, I can't picture somebody pretending to be a Christian preacher, pastor, but they know there's God because they know the earth is flat. but they're lying about being a pastor and they're going to fake people out about the 24-hour sun. It just doesn't really, nothing works out like that. It just, he seems like he's a pastor with kids, with a wife who lives in a home in Colorado, and that he's doesn't like that this girl Wendy kind of showed him up on Facebook about flat Earth, and he didn't know about the globe model. And now he feels like he does know about the globe model, and he feels that the 24-hour sun does exist and that it should end the debate. That's why he called it the final experiment. Now, since then, he's kind of said, okay, well, you can call whatever you want. That's just what I named it.
Right. That was his term, right? Not yours.
Right. Exactly. It's his term. And we don't,
well, because a lot of people are getting bent out of shape just over that. It's like, well, the guy's putting up $1 gazillion. He can call it whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. And we could find out they were wrong. We could find out when we get back. But to me, it's like, it's not really worth going crazy over, because we kind of looked at it and we said, well, if he's paying for the flights, then we're not out anything. Let's say we find out tomorrow that he gets put in jail for financial crime. Well, I'm not out anything. Okay, except for all my audience and except for all my friends, those guys. But besides that, I'm not out anything. So we've kind of felt like we have always been in that power position, that we're not really afraid of them doing something to us. If something did happen to us, I would hope that people would recognize what that means. But again, I don't really have high hopes in that either, to be honest with you. I'm going to try and find this for you.
All right. While he tries to find that, I'm going to address a few things. First of all, thank you so much, Ms. Marsha, for the gifted memberships. That's awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you for those. If you ever got a membership, hopefully you enjoy that. Also, just to catch you up a little bit from the previous conversation, basically he's planning to wear a GoPro on his chest and film like 15 minutes out of every hour for large swaths of the day. It does look like if the trip happens that Austin is going, as well as Candace Owens' producer, or one of her producers for the Candace Owens show, that they're also going to go. I guess Alex Stein is still a maybe, but there's several people going. And of course, I can't remember the names of the two gentlemen that believe in the globe that are going, but so there's going to be a decent sized group of them basically. And I'm sure just as Jeran and Austin are going to stay up for a 24-hour time period in order to capture the footage, so will the Globers as well, right? Probably to get their own footage, if not. But I know that Jeran was talking about how he had done research on different types of automated sun trackers. Basically, it's like a tripod that it would work automatically, but they're still apparently going to be awake at that point. And then also he's figured out a way to found some sort of contraption that's going to help him put all the battery packs together so that he can just change out the last battery one at a time and make sure there's a continuous feed and continuous power. Because remember, the batteries lose like 40 to 60% of their battery life in extreme cold. So they have to take all this stuff to prepare to keep the equipment warm, to keep the batteries flowing, as well as changed out regularly, so they can get the footage they need. But that's the idea, is that I think when he's done, he's going to not only have the personal testimony of all the people that went, including Austin, but he's also going to be able to basically just sell the footage to people for $20 each. You can get all the footage to get the proof or the disproof, which side of the argument that you may be on.
And that's ever going to happen. It's not going to be another guy the next year that's like, oh, who wants to go this time? So
not likely anyway.
Yeah. And I just said, to me, I stood by myself when I said, no, I don't want to go alone. I felt that would have been a bad move. I just didn't want, easily they could heart attack you and be like, oh, Jeran had a heart attack, and nobody's even going to investigate. But if we go down there and we come back and they're like, Jeran and Austin and Lisbeth all had heart attacks, that's probably enough reason for people to go look into it.
And guys, at this point, it's the 12th of November. So this trip is planned for just a little over a month away. If it still happens, I'll be very surprised. Like if I don't bet, I think it's irresponsible to gamble, but if I was a betting man, as the saying goes, I would be like 90% this trip's not going to happen. 10% that it actually happens and they find out footage one way or another. But and that's of course me assuming that they are going to take them to the spot they think that they're going to be taken to. That's the biggest hinge point of this whole thing. So I hope they can figure out some way to document their travel, to verify their travel.
Suspicious. Plus, it's just an emotional thing too. Like if you're all by yourself and you're surrounded by a bunch of people who don't like you very much, I mean that's
yeah. I can already.
And for those of you that are watching this that may not be aware, Will Duffy invited me to go on this trip, but I declined. So that's why I'm covering it. That's why I'm giving you guys updates on what's happening here.
On top of dealing with what the actual situation is, going to this very harsh environment. So yeah, I mean, it was very cool that he was down to let a person that that's your bro, you know.
And then what was funny is that so then it was going to be Austin and I, but then Austin's like, "Well, and Duffy's going too, right?" And I'm like, "No, I think that he gave up his seat to pay for you." And he's like, "Well, then I'm not going." I'm like, "Oh, well, then you got to tell him that." So then Austin made a demand that said, "I'm only going if you're going, Duffy," because he said, "You're not going to make this trip and then not go." So then Duffy's like, "Well, I told my wife I was only going to pay for 2 trips at the most. That means I'm paying for 4." So he's like, "I guess I'll talk to her about it." So he ended up getting her okay, we're blessing on that. But his original plan was paying for 2 trips, 1 flat earther, 1 globe earther. Then he was thinking about going himself. Then when I added Austin, he took himself out. Now he's back in. So he has to pay for 4.
So who is actually going now on this trip that's part of your camp?
Just Austin, myself, and Elizabeth.
And then, well, I meant like all together, because I'm assuming through this company, they do them in groups, right? There's going to be other people outside of this
Yeah,
Duffy's thing.
There can be 70 people, which is it's 200. It's like 250 people can fit on the plane, but only 70 can stay at the camp at one time. So the most there'll be is 70. But I've seen videos of people going down there. It's usually 10 people. You know, it's usually not very many. That's probably why it's so expensive. But I'm guessing there's going to be at least 10 or 12 from us, and there'll probably be another 10 or 20 people from.
So there'll also be you can almost call it a control group, because there'll be people there who are going because they wanted to go and have nothing to do with anything you guys are doing.
There should be, absolutely, yes. Unless nobody signed up for the trip, which would be weird. If I get on the plane and it's just us, that'd be weird.
Well, if you see guys in black suits and sunglasses, you can be like,
I'm not gonna leave here. I see people look too German, ready to. Wait, what is that?
Anybody here from Operation Paperclip? Oh shit!
Right here. You look a little bit like Mengel's son. Yeah, so I'm not worried about them doing anything to us. I think that sometimes those things are, the more public you are, the safer you are, right?
Yes.
Because it would do them more damage to have something happen to us than to just have nobody even know about it. So
I think that's kind of taking the conspiracy aspect of this too far. I mean, not to be rude to you, but are you guys that important? I mean,
no,
it's like, are they really? Is somebody really constructing a conspiracy around another conspiracy around you guys? That's.
Well, this is where, if they did try to harm them, this is where I would say it is a good thing to get high profile people like Candace Owens' team involved and interested in trying to document this as well. Many of you guys may not realize, but Candace Owens recently started talking against the moon landings, and it seems as if someone's been in her ear about flat Earth content in general, and so it seems like she's no longer a believer in the moon landings, from what I could tell, from what I saw. And so I guess they reached out to her, and someone from her team said that they would want to go on this trip to document it as well. So as far as like, you know, building in a sense of safety is like, yeah, if it was just Austin and Jeran going with a bunch of people they don't know, that's extra dangerous. But now that they're trying to get, you know, some higher profile people, it's a little bit more accountability. You know, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but you know, Candace Owens she's a massive influence in her own sphere as far as how big her podcast has grown, even though she's separate from the Daily Wire now. She's a massive influence. And so she's well connected. She knows a lot of people, and it's interesting to me. You know, I don't know her personally, but the more the better, in my opinion, as far as getting people to go, just for no matter what the evidence shows, right? No matter what it shows, just I don't want any shenanigans to happen to Jeran or Austin. So
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm an open-minded guy, but it's like, it seems a little unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you have to take the position sometimes of like, okay, let's say that we're right. So if you take that position of just, okay, we're right that the Earth is flat, they've been hiding it for 500 years, whatever. Then you have to start saying, well, they're not going to give it up easy. So it's not going to be like, I'll just let Austin and Jeran go down there and film the sunset. They would have to somehow stop that. But again, how would they go about doing that? Would it be good if they just kill us? Well, somebody's going to go the next year. So that's not going to do it. You're going to have to do something else. So they would have to actually convince us to.
Well, if there were murders, dude, you're public enough that.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess we couldn't call it murders. If you guys disappear, you're
right.
Public enough that a whole lot of people, myself included, would start asking a hell of a lot of questions. So I just don't find that to be very likely.
Neither do I. But that would be my hope, is if we do disappear in a crevasse or something, that people start to question why that might be. There might be a reason behind that. So anyway, and again, people can spiral about my opinion. I don't really understand it. I would never spiral about somebody else's opinion. Like, I can't imagine sitting here watching a show and somebody saying what they think it's going to prove to them based on what they've taught or based on what they've believed for 9 years. I can't picture sitting there calling them names, running off to make a video about them or whatever. It's just really pathetic to me, because I don't base my beliefs off what other people believe. I can listen to what you believe. I'll listen to what Jason believes. I'll listen to what Crow believes. I'll listen to what Owen Benjamin believes. And then from that, if anything matches my worldview and kind of fits with my opinion of the world, then I can adopt those things into my belief system. And if they don't, I can just deny them, or I can just ignore them. And when somebody is consistently giving me good information, that's the people that I watch, and that's the people I gravitate to. And the people that continue to put out bad information, why would I watch them again? So there's some channels that I used to watch that I'll never watch again ever, because they just keep putting out misinformation, lies, confusion. They don't come to me for answers. They'll just keep going on the show, making a new video about saying something about me that's like, that's not true. That's not true. It's like, oh, I'm right here. All you have to do is ask me, Jeran, is it true to this? Or they won't even do that. So it just becomes, and then I just hear people preaching on their channel like, hey, we should be allowed to believe what we want. We should be allowed to make decisions based on what we see as being true. It's like, that's what we're doing. So you're demonizing us for doing exactly what you're saying you should be able to do. And it's weird, because then if I say that about they shouldn't be going after it, they'll be like, oh, Jeran's trying to tell us what we can do on our channel. Like, no, you can do whatever you want on your channel. That's not what I'm saying. You can do whatever you want on your channel, but so can we, So it's just a very weird thing. I wish there was more flat earthers that stood up for the AE map, and understanding that it's okay if you're wrong, and that sometimes you have to have balls and just say, this is what I believe for 9 years, and if I'm wrong, then I'll get shown I'm wrong. But everyone's taking a back seat. In fact, I might be the only one. I don't think there's anybody else. Even Austin kind of said, well, he wouldn't think that the globe is true. He would have to rethink his position, though. Kind of touched it with kid gloves like that. Which again, I at least give him credit, because he wasn't like everybody else who said it doesn't matter. Because clearly it does. Clearly it does matter. And
it clearly matters, Jeran, just because so many people are getting so bent out of shape over it.
Yeah. Well, according to them, they would say that they're getting bent out of shape because they think it doesn't matter, and I'm saying it does.
So the thing that hey Rose, welcome, sister. I hope that you're doing well, and thanks for jumping in the chat. And I just would hope that it matters to a lot of people, because just like in a lot of religious crowds, that they really want a calendar so they can observe what they consider the set apart days to God, the holidays to God. So they want an accurate calendar they can rely on. A lot of other people have this desire. They want an accurate map of where they live so they can have a sense of wherewithal. Maybe that's too superficial of a way to describe it, but that seems to be like there's a huge contention over getting an accurate map to where we live. And there's been desires for cartography forever. Like, it's always been a thing throughout Kingdom is that somebody in the royal court's like, we need to go make a new map. The coastline doesn't seem to match. And so they like spend all this money, time, and adventure to go out and try to make a new map. And people still have that same desire within them. Lots of people do. And that's where, if there's a 24-hour sun, it would give more credence to the map that the heliocentric model produced. But if there's not a 24-hour sun, then it would give more credence to what's been called the AE map, which is a common map that a lot of flat earthers use, as far as just an overlay, a very quick snapshot of like where the continents may be. With the Antarctic, what's called the Antarctic continent on the globe model was actually an outer encircle and an encompassment of land that would be Antarctica, stretching all around the firmament enclosed piece of land. And so if there's a 24-hour sun, now what they were talking about earlier was the body of the sun, not just general light in the sky, not just ambient light, but the body of the sun, because there is a light effect that happens inside of a dome. It's called the coffee cup caustic, where it's, even though the sun can be going away on the other side, the way it refracts around the edge of the dome produces ambient light on the other side. So it's an actual term, scientific term. of how that light is reflected off of that curved surface of a dome. And so that they're talking about trying to actually film the body of the sun for 24 hours. And so they can prove one or another if it truly is a heliocentric ball. But ultimately, a lot of people get jazzed up about this because they want an accurate map of where they are. They want to feel a sense of but so many of these people, even if they realize that there's a 24-hour sun that they can observe there, and I can't stress this enough, and if they can prove that they actually went to the location that is being claimed, there's so many people that are still not going to believe in a globe model because they can observe mountains at 300, 400, 500 miles away, and JT Nolan's infrared photography shows them 1,000 miles away. So that's impossible on a globe. That's only possible on a circle of the Earth. And that's considered flat, not considered globular or spherical. So there's still a lot of other issues with the globe model that would have to be addressed, not just this one small ancillary issue. But at the same time, it would cause the azimuthal equidistant map to be put to the side for most people in their minds because it shouldn't work. You should not see a 24-hour body of the sun encircling the sky on that type of map. So, but here's the thing I've been asking for a long time now, which is this company ALS is the company that he just mentioned. They're out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and how come they don't already have published on their websites like testimonies of the 24-hour sun and people having pictures and videos? And supposedly they take this trip down there to this campsite at this specific latitude. They take this trip down there every year, and they have for like 25 years. Why isn't there like tons of pictures, especially in the last 9 years, when this topic of what is the shape of the Earth has been such a mainstream talking point that YouTube was called before Congress to censor it? So why doesn't ALS have testimony already if they're making this trip regularly? Their pilots, their trip coordinator, whatever his name is, whatever the trip manager might be, like he should have a wealth of testimony. Anyway, it's just weird. There's just some weird things to this concept that doesn't make a lot of common sense. That's what they would say.
I mean, what difference does it make what Jeran Campanella says?
Yeah, amen to that.
And I don't mean that from a screw you kind of thing, but it's like, okay, so this is what you think.
When's the last time that you watched somebody and listened to their belief because it was going to be important to you enough that you had to believe? I just don't get it. I've never been like that, and I don't. And I believe that that's the problem with like religions. That's why I don't like religions or cults, right? Is because you're being told what to believe based on what somebody else says, and you're not getting a chance to actually believe what the evidence tells you. And that's how I grew up being a Catholic. Is that I didn't look at evidence around the world because I was told that anything coming from outside the Bible was from Satan. So anything coming from outside, I was just, I'm wary of that.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Vader? Vader Bear is here. He's asking, do I think that they have the capability of faking it? I struggle with that, man, because from the pictures from the campsite, it seems to be, even though they're almost like fully surrounded by mountains, it seems to be it would be like, I just feel like it'd be very difficult to fake it because how would they, the timing that it would require to create a fake sun that could go in the same circuit as the actual real sun that they're going to see. Again, if they're going to this specific location, they say they're being told to go, they're being taken to. Then it just the timing of them putting up an artificial sun in the sky that's as bright and it looks the same. Because remember, they'll be taking. Jeran was talking earlier about taking solar filters, and they're going to be watching the sun with solar filters, the multiple cameras, and so if they have a fake sun, I mean, if it glitches at any point, if it, like if they would have to like turn it on and match its observer's path at the same trigonometric angle of the observer on the ground at this campsite, so that they know it's going to be in, and then as the sun moves away, then it continues. But then how are you going to, I just think it'd be like super, super difficult. I don't even know. That'd be very, very difficult. A lot of moving pieces that have a high probability of not working properly. So I don't know if they could fake it like that.
But then I realized, well, none of these beliefs are mine. They're all beliefs that have been handed to me and that I believe because my parents told me to. And once I was able to get out of that, then I kind of could see clearly. And so when we found flat Earth, because then I became an atheist. When I became an atheist, I found out that that's a religion. And I said, okay, these guys also, they
Look, yeah, live music. I hear you, man. I know. I'm thinking about what you're describing as I'm trying to describe how difficult it would be. The only problem is like you would have to. That means you're having extra airplanes in the sky to create the fake cloud coverage. They would be able to hear that, right? They would be able to see that. They're going to be watching the clouds, or the sky itself, for 24 hours straight, if not longer. So then you would have to. You need special planes that are silent, some sort of drone that you could put down there that is somehow silent, that they can't hear, that's going to be creating fake cloud coverage at specific moments for the transitions, for the fakes. I mean, the logistics, like I said, is a high probability of failure. So I don't know. I think it'd be very, very difficult to actually fake what they're trying to observe.
they bank things off like these, dates of rocks and that they can date dinosaur bones. And then you start looking into it and find out that they don't even date dinosaur bones. They basically look at the strata of the earth that they come from. And then they say they know what that date is. Like, how'd you figure out the date of the rocks? So you just find that this whole thing is like a unraveling ball of yarn. And so I got out of that one. And when I found flat earth, I really felt like I found a group of people that were open-minded, that would allow you to think thoughts that are outside the box and then have everything bring back to what is seen in the real world. And that's what flat earth became. And I think those first 2 years, say 2015, 2016, were great because that's what it was. It was people doing the research, always coming back. But no matter what fringe theory they went off on, it still had to be rooted in evidence, right? So that would be the way that's the barometer. If somebody's going off on some theory and you're like, well, where's your evidence of that? And they would say, well, I don't. Okay, well, then we dismiss that. We're only looking for, that's how it was. And then I don't want to blame Christians, but it was about when Christians started to latch onto this, because Christians latch onto it not because of evidence, but because the Bible says so. The Bible says that the earth doesn't move. The Bible says that the earth is pressed, flat like a seal or whatever it's called. So,
so here's the difference that, again, like I said, Jeran, he doesn't believe the Bible. So Christians latched onto this so easily because it actually had been in the Bible the whole time. So the other thousands and thousands of verses from the Bible that they already have been able to test in their lives and prove and see that it was good. Psalm 34, taste and see that the Lord is good, right? To walk out his commandments and see the benefits he promises you. I've personally done that in my life. So if I'm doing that with all the moral instruction of the Bible, then when I get to the 500 plus verses that talk about the description of where he made the place that I live in, and then my eyes are kind of opened, if you will, to realize, oh wait, this has actually been in here the whole time. I wasn't taking the words for what they say. I was immediately trying to reinterpret them with my heliocentric indoctrination, and it was causing all this confusion. That's why before I allowed the definition of the firmament to be what it says it is, I was struggled understanding Genesis 1. It really made no sense, right? The moment that you actually let the words be as what their definitions are, and then plug and play in the rest of the Bible, then you realize, oh, it's actually been in here the whole time. So yeah, I have already trusted this document as actually inspired words from the Creator to me for my good, not for my deception, for my good. And I have all this other proof in my life. Why would I take these 500 verses and suddenly think these are somehow a lie or deception? So it's easier for Christians to trust the biblical cosmological firmament model once they realize it's been in there the whole time.
That's when things started to not be so research based. We had FE Core, but beyond that, there just wasn't a lot of good experiments being done anymore. It was more like, let's yell about it and talk about it in memes and have debates. So it did kind of, go away from, and I'm part of it. I'm part of that idea where all of a sudden it was like, oh, we got to do these live streams. And then COVID happened, right? COVID obviously kept everybody home. So, lots of reasons that we are where we are. But I don't think that there's a reason why anybody should be upset about somebody going to get data. And if you think we're going to fake it, then wait till the data comes back. And if we come back and say, oh, sorry, we lost the data. Okay, right away, you'll be like, I knew it. These guys are fake.
Suspicious.
Yeah. So that's, hey, be suspicious. I mean, you should be skeptical about everything, but not about I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know. Being skeptical of Austin and I is a little bit of a stretch. I get it. I'm myself. I'm business partners with Austin, so I see Austin as very honest, and that he would never go there and come back and lie. I think the same thing about Elizabeth, and that's one thing that we put in the contract, is that we are going down there to give our honest recollection, or basically what we see, and that's it. So the people have been saying, because I've heard people out there saying, oh, they promise that if the sun circles, it means it's a globe. No one's ever said that. And we've never signed any contract that says that's part of it at all. So really, it's just it's what it's billed as, and people have their own ideas about what's going on, and they are getting real frustrated about it. And they've said, oh, well, you guys have known this for years, and now you're just taking advantage of it. Like, known what for years? They might be talking about in 2018 or so, or whatever it was, 17 or 18. Jake the asshole came to me because he was doing a debunk of Cool Hard Logic's video. And he said, hey, Cool Hard Logic says the sun sets south of west and rises south of east when you're in Australia. How do we explain that? And I said, oh, just don't do that one yet. He's like, what do you mean? I'm doing a debunk video. I'm like, yeah, we don't have the answer. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, we don't have the exact answer of why that would happen. And I said, so we're working on it. Because like basically Jake was like an attack dog. He would go after people, and they would do hit pieces, and he would do great videos going back at them. And us, me, Bob Nodell, Austin Witz, all of us were like researchers, or like we were doing, trying to figure these things out. So it wasn't ever going to be on Jake to go figure it out. It's like, Jake, just do your debunking videos, like whatever you do. And I said, skip that part because we haven't got an answer yet. Well, he went off the deep end saying that we knew that the AE map didn't work and that the sun didn't circle. To me, if we knew that and that the sun went behind Antarctica, yeah, I would have completely known at that time. But the problem was there was no evidence of the Antarctic sun. So it was like, yeah, it looks like it sets south of west, rises south of east, but there's no 24-hour sun. So it just looks that way. It must keep going around the earth. So I was able to explain that away. Whereas then Jake went off on his tangent of basically leaving the flat earth because of, so now they're saying, oh, now that it's coming out, now Jeran's making it seem like it's new to him. He's never heard of it. No, I never said that. In fact, you can find videos called Why I'm Still an AE Person. And it's me explaining.
Hold the front. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they chose to do the trip in December. I think, I could be wrong, but I think so. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. Like, they've been talking since the moment this thing came into their purview, like into their discussion, and they got the invitations. They've been talking about that's the biggest risk of the trip is just cloud coverage, especially because from a FE model, they already believe there's going to be ambient light for 24 hours. That's why they're trying to document the actual body of the sun with solar filters and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully the cloud coverage won't be an issue for them, because it might be no proof either way kind of thing if it's just fully cloudy for 5 days. But apparently they're going to be there for 5 days, so, or 6, I think. So like, with the supposed high wind patterns that are down there, it's hard to believe that it would just be absolute stacked clouds the entire time. But we'll see.
Even with these observations, I still believe in the AE map. So I clearly knew it. I clearly told my audience that I knew that the sun set south of west and rise south of east. So again, it's just one of those things where if it turns out that the sun does circle down there, then the globe is probably at least the most evidence to clear the closest to the truth, at least as far as we know right now. Again, does it mean forever? No. Please go to the drawing board. Please figure it out. I hate the globe for many reasons. I think that the way it's taught is wrong. I think that the way that it's promoted is wrong. I think the way that it's proven is wrong. I think that you never can teach children at 4 or 5 years old where they live and then never follow up to tell them all the evidence that tells them where they live, because they're going to get to a certain age when they look for the evidence. If there is none, they're going to do what flat earthers have done. So, and that's another thing. I would go on a crusade against anybody demonizing flat earthers, because I would say, hey, well, now that I think that the earth might be a sphere because the evidence matches better, let me explain all the reasons that flat earthers should exist, which is Stephen Hawking faking these experiments, the no 24-hour sun footage, the no undersea cables in the south, the boat races are slower in the south. I would give all these reasons that it's actually the intellectually honest opinion to doubt the globe. It is absolutely okay with, and people demonizing it. This is the problem: is all these globers are just act like flat earthers are so stupid when they're really not. They're actually finding the things that globers didn't even find. No glober ever found out that Stephen Hawking faked his helicopter experiment. It took flat earthers. It took people being skeptical of science to show that science does lie. So the religious adherence to science would have never caught those at all. And there's been many things.
I always follow the philosophy of the late great Jim Mars, who said, "Question everything."
Yep. And again, even question us when we come back. There's no reason that you should buy into what we say, because I wouldn't ever do that to you. If you were going and you came back, I wouldn't buy into what you say, but I would ask you to get as much footage as you can. So
Yes. That's what you're doing.
Right. Jeran, are you going to get all the, going to get as much footage as I can? I have every camera we have. I've got memory cards up the wazoo. We got battery packs up the wazoo. So we got a generator down there. It is what it is. We're going to go down there. We're going to get as much data as we can. We'll bring it back. And, I did think for a little while, like, oh, it's going to be great to have all the flat earthers rallying behind us and everything. And then I realized, okay, that ship has sailed. So, but it's still the same regardless, is that I'm not excited about the trip. I'm actually kind of dreading it a little bit, but it will be one of those experiences, if we do go, that I'll never forget. And it will be either, it feels good to know that as of December 19th, I'm going to know one way or the other. And that's very selfish, but at the same time, and then my wife puts it a great way. She said, for 9 years, we've been asking for evidence of the globe. They've been unable to provide it. This is evidence of the globe. That's it. So when you go into asking for evidence of the globe and they don't provide any, then it makes sense why you wouldn't believe in it. But if they all of a sudden do provide it, and this isn't something like, oh, look at this one little observation. This is the freaking sun, and it's circling your head for 5 days. Again, that's just picture where you're at now. Everybody knows the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. You can kind of picture that half arc that you see in the sky. Now picture you go down south, and eventually you get to far enough that the sun is just doing a circle around you every single day. And not for days or weeks, or it's for months, supposedly. Even at that 80-degree marker, it'd be about 3 months that you have 24-hour sun. If that's the case, we should recognize that that means something. And it means something pretty profound. Because it, again, and the people, for me at least, I say there's no way God.
Just FYI, about a month ago, I was talking with Jeran, and he was telling me he'll be surprised if the trip actually happens. So, so as of right now, the trip is still on, but and he's been talking about it for 6 months, getting a lot of flack for saying, if he does make the observation that supports a globe map and a globe model, he'll have to rethink some things. But he's still not gonna. It still doesn't answer, the second law of thermodynamics and the vacuum of space. A -15 torr right next to a pressurized 100 parts per quintillion atmosphere with no entropy. Like he's still gonna. There's still so many things about the globe model that's not answered, that he understands would still need some issues to investigate and try to figure out. And there's lies that the government agencies have been caught in trying to prove this heliocentric model. But again, that's why he just says this is a trip that he's decided to go on to try to get some. It's a fact-finding mission, right? He wants to just say that he went, try to get the footage that he can. So we'll see.
Deceived us on purpose. God would not set up a world that's flat and then say, now I'm going to make the sun do something it can only do on a sphere. That's completely illogical. I don't think the creator would do that. I do think the creator put our one and only sun here as a guiding light. And it's the allegories that go with the sun, the God's sun. It's, it's the light of the world. So I do think that there is evidence and proof within the sun that tell us where we live. So all the people saying we can't tell the shape of the ground by the lights in the sky, you can say it all you want. It's God's sun. He put it here for a reason. And it's probably the best way to determine. If the earth is as large as they say, you're not going to be able to measure the curve with a ruler. You're not going to be able to measure it with laser lights because it's too far away. The curve's too far. So that would tell me that the sun would be your arbiter of truth. And since it's so big, it can't be faked. I think that it's I give props to Duffy for finding the one thing that's pretty definitive. I mean, could you find a way out of it? Sure. I'm not saying I know all possible ways, but because everything else, the equator is a big deal. On the globe Earth, the equator is a straight line. On the flat Earth, it's a very curved line. It's the equator that's curved around the circle. But there's no way to ever determine that because even ask any pilot. No pilot you wouldn't even know you're deviating that much. You wouldn't know that you were deviating that much in a 50-mile circle, let alone 24,901. So there's lots of different differences, but it's very difficult to prove. But one of them that should be pretty easy is whether the sun circles or whether it sets. So that is that. I mean, do you agree with the position there? I mean, if you went down there and saw that, would make it pretty definitive to you. I think.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but I've never had a stake in this. I've never believed anything in particular about any of this. I've just seen some things that I have questions about that I'd like answers to. And you doing this is just, okay, well, here's more scientific data to add into the sum total. That's the way I've always looked at this stuff.
And I want people to realize too that all the NASA stuff, it doesn't get rid of any of the NASA fakery.
We know that they faked stuff. You just don't know exactly why. And we could sit here for another hour going through that stuff. We know that
I've done shows with you over it.
Well, yeah, because we both know it really well. There are certain, and we can't prove that everything they've shown us is fakery, but we've seen enough stuff where it's clear fakery that we know, okay, for some reason, whatever the reason is, they are at least somewhat showing poppycock to the public.
Right.
The thing to find out then is, why are they doing that?
Right. And you could still fake moon landings, and you could still fake space travel, even if the Earth's a sphere. So, I mean, you couldn't do that. Now, I don't think the Earth's a sphere. I can't even really. I used to say, like, I don't even know how people. It seems very metaphysical to me. The idea of like, I've never seen anything pull to the center. So when they tell me that the Earth works because everything pulls to the center, and that's why we all feel down relative to our own position. But it's like, okay, still, where's the evidence of things pulling to the center of something? There really isn't that evidence. So there's enough wrong with it that I am still confident that the Earth is not a sphere. But I'm also confident in the fact that if the sun does that, it'd be really tough to explain any other way, unless you use multiple suns, in which case we would see them. So that's why I say on the 19th, as of the 19th, when I get back, I'll know for myself one way or the other. And then I can I'll feel so much better one way or the other, because at least I'll know that much. And I can then you start to build your belief system off of some foundation, which is very difficult when you think everybody's lying to you about everything. It's hard to build a foundation in anything because you doubt everything. And what can you really go out and prove for yourself? But this is something that if it can't be faked, then it is of prime importance. It's like what do they call it? Prima facie evidence, right? So it's very strong and from the start and from the beginning. And it's what the Globe isn't backtracking or anything. The Globe never said, oh, we don't think it, we're not sure. The Globe has been very adamant about that fact from day one, right? So saying, no, there is a 24-hour sun. We said, no, there's not. They couldn't show.
So I guess I don't give Duffy props for thinking that this particular experiment is the final one, that this is the one observation that would prove a globe or not, because that's dismissing all the evidence that the other side has brought to, like biblical cosmologists and just general flat earthers have brought to the table, as far as there's never any evidence that you live on a land surface that curves in any direction from you at the calculations that tell you it should if you lived on a sphere. So like that, the fact that that's ignored as that's over here, but then this final experiment is the one that could prove a globe. You're like, that's giving way too little credit to the FE side and way too much credit to the globe side for one observation. When we have dozens and dozens of observations at different altitudes with different instrumentation, with many different people to show that this place the land that we live on doesn't curve away from us in any regard. So to me, that's like, all right, well, how is that not the final experiment for the FE side? But the Globers have to figure out a way to deal with. They don't deal with it. They just claim refraction. They just claim that the atmosphere is pushing images up over the curve to make it look flat, which is ridiculous. That's not how refraction works. It's just ridiculous. So again, like there's this inherent assumption and dismissal of the observations we can make to say that, oh, well, Duffy's figured out that this is the actual experiment that would answer the question or would be amazing evidence for the globe that the FE people would have to struggle to refute. No, they need to have an answer for why we can see hundreds and hundreds of miles past the mathematical curvature of what we're supposed to not be able to see. Why can I see that far? How is there pressurized atmosphere? on this ball that you claim we live on? When all observable noble gases rise up and ignore the downward pull that's called gravity. Like there's so many other positive proofs on the FE side that should be labeled the quote unquote final experiment that seem to just be dismissed and overlooked.
Show that there was, and we couldn't necessarily show that there wasn't. So it's just been kind of a stalemate. And then all these flat earthers now are like fair weather flat earthers where they're like, I didn't even care about the sun when I became a flat earther. It's like, okay, go around saying that. But many people did, because it makes a big difference. And I'll be the first one to admit, if I found all this evidence of a 24-hour sun in 2014, there's a high chance I didn't become a flat earther. It's just the way it goes. Because that one, the no circumnavigation, that's probably the biggest one. That guy, he's called ZQ Pilot. He got the record for north-south circumnavigation, but I watched him fly from Brazil to the 90-degree marker and turn around and fly back to Brazil. And then he went over to New Zealand, and then he did the north part, and they gave him the record. And I said, okay, you don't give records of circumnavigation to people who don't circumnavigate. He went to the 90-degree marker and turned around because he said it got too cold. He didn't go across that's not circumnavigation. So when I saw that, I think that was a big one for me. And then throughout, look at it. What they did behind the curve is very good evidence to me that the Earth is flat. Because I look at it and I say, okay, here's these guys are making a movie about flat Earth. They want to show it's a globe. Why not just go and show it's a globe? Why would you take my experiment, misrepresent it? That seems like what you would do if you can't prove it's a globe. So, to me, there's just
they were coming at it from a false premise from like the get-go. When I saw that, I was like, who the hell would make this? I mean, it wasn't a very well done film, and I can say that because I've made a film and won 10 awards for it.
Right.
And
so
I can actually brag a little bit there.
I would say the film was pretty. That was it. I think that they did.
Yeah, but I mean, I just felt like it wasn't very well done. Like the fact that they had to hyper edit everything to try and make things. It's kind of like all the ridiculous interviews with Kamala Harris where they had to hyper edit them to make her look less stupid. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It's what it reminds me of. Is this kind of stuff.
Every answer was, well, I grew up in a middle class family.
It's just so laughable, and it's like that's what these people did. But because I know you, and I knew how many people in that film that I've broken bread with how many of these folks that are all really cool, and then they're trying to paint this weird picture. And I was like, okay, so these guys tried to make a hit piece, but they didn't do a very good job of it. And then they had like literally like a really anticlimactic ending by trying to make you look dumb, and really it just ended. I was like, yeah, you guys aren't very good filmmakers.
When they did that, because when I talked to a lawyer finally, he was saying, do you have any evidence of them saying that you proved the globe? Because then he said, we have a case, but I don't. So what they did is they did the end of the movie. They didn't say anything about it, and they let people come to their own conclusions. Right? They never said, oh, Jeran proved the globe. They just made the end of me saying interesting so that they could make it like that was their little way out, their little weasel move. But they were weasels from the start. I mean, I'll never trust people like that again. Like when I asked the producer of the movie, The Girl, when we were in North Carolina, I said, hey, can I get a look at some of the work you've done? And she's like, yeah, I'll send you some videos. So she sent me like 5 links, and they were to these 5 different documentaries. She didn't include the one that was the Sandy Hook documentary where she goes after Wolfgang Halbig and basically misrepresented him. She didn't even show me that one, of course. But I was trying to tell people like if I'm
so dishonesty from the get-go.
Yeah, if I'm asking Neil deGrasse Tyson to come on my show, he's like, can I get some copies of your? And I go send him my how do you do your garage shelving, and how do you
here's a rap song.
6 months later, and then he comes on my show, and I'm like, haha, I'm a flat earther who hates the globe. Like that's deceptive. That is exactly what that is. But when they do it to me, the people are like, that's not deceptive. She just didn't send you that one. No, she knows I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm worried about working with her. I asked for her work, and she sends me 5 things that aren't conspiracy related.
Yeah, they're just disingenuous. And you know what? The documentary went nowhere and did nothing. Like they got exactly what they deserved. They didn't get what they wanted out of it for whatever their motives were.
Like Alex Stein and others say that that's what brought them to flat earth. So I've heard it from numerous people who say that they watched the documentary, then they were just interested in the subject, started looking into it, and became flat earthers. But I mean, even if like I'm not explaining, like even if I said that the globe is like, I still wouldn't even have a problem saying like, but I am in the flat earth camp as far as when it comes to anti-establishment. I'm just the way that they've taught it. We got Stephen Hawking faking. Like, how can science ever think it's okay to fake anything? Like that's just
it shouldn't. And we saw that again with the thing I'm not going to talk about from just a short few years ago. How much stuff did they blatantly lie about? Not just fudged a little bit, blatant lies.
I heard them now because now 50% more people don't trust them at all.
And I was wondering if that was going to happen because as long as they didn't really manage to knock off enough people in huge quantities, that
just a trouble for them, right? Like, and then having everybody stay home, it just gives people the exact thing that we've always said, that when you're home and you have time in front of the computer, that's when you research. When you have work all day, you don't have time for that shit. When I was a store manager of a drugstore, my entire knowledge came from the 30 minutes I drove to work and listened to the radio. That was it. That was my entire
that exact thing, Jeran, is one of the things that the controllers had to have had in mind by squeezing us in the economy. Like, it's not like things where 50, 60 years ago where you could have a single person with a decent income run the household and everybody can live comfortably. No, we don't have, unless you have a damned good job. It's not like that anymore.
When you grew up, did you guys eat dinner like at the table?
Not every night, but a little bit. I come from a divorced family, so it was kind of like yes and no.
Divorced, I was 16, so it just seemed like, and I remember sitting at our table eating dinner, like you look across the street and the neighbors were sitting at their table having dinner. And
yeah,
you know, it's just what everybody did, and it was just such a different world.
It was a lot more respectful of the family. Like there's things about the older way of doing things.
Right? Like, I remember asking my dad one time who he voted for, and he was like, "You don't ask people that."
Yeah,
like it's very private.
Big deal.
Right. And you understand why now. It's because if people start arguing over beliefs in politicians, that it becomes irreconcilable.
Like 3 years ago.
Right. It becomes very weird. And so you have that problem. And then you've got people who basically they internalize the candidate. They become Trump or they become Kamala, right? They like all of a sudden it's like their entire identity is these people. That was never the case back then. And you wouldn't talk about that or politics or religion or politics. And now that's all everybody talks about. So you can see what happened. And the internet didn't help anybody because the internet allows people to say things they would never say in person, to hold positions they would never say in person. Like, for instance, these guys who are calling me all these names on these other channels, in a real life that didn't have an internet, that would never happen. Because
yes. Hold the front. Yes. This is one of the reasons why Jeran and Austin heavily considered and forced Duffy to create a custom contract that they all agreed with lawyers in order to, before they signed the contract to go on this trip, because they wanted to represent the FE side. They wanted to be, a living testimony, a witness to what was seen, regardless of the video evidence or regardless of the mechanical evidence. Because we know the indoctrination of this model and the social stigma that goes with it. So there's so many people that will lie and they will skew concepts. And I mean, we've seen this type of cognitive dissonance on my channel when speaking to people about religious narratives, as far as, theological concepts. And you put blatant words in front of their face and they just were like, no, I didn't say that. Yeah, it does. It says 1 + 1 is 2. And they're like, no, I didn't say that. No, I didn't. This is 3. There's 3 and 1. 3 and 1. That's the math you should think about. Regardless of what the words say, you should believe 3 and 1. So we know that this is it's a spiritual war you're fighting, right? In the same way that the culture will tell you that it's okay to terminate children in the womb, they're also going to tell you what the Father said he described the creation where you live. That's false. And you should believe something else. The same spirits that push lies of abortion, push lies of heliocentrism, push lies of all kinds, right? So if this was a topic where God didn't speak on it, then that would be something different. But like, God spoke on it a lot. He spoke on it so much that it's integral in the return of his son to create peace on the earth, as his son descends out of heaven and the New Jerusalem descends out of heaven. So physically opens the sky, the firmament above, to descend down. Like, that's how much he not just spoke on it in his word, but is actually going to use what he described in his word in a logical manner for him to come and create peace on the earth, which is the fulfilling promise of the Bible itself. So the Father would tabernacle on the earth and be peace on the earth amongst the nations. So yeah, it's a unique thing to be like, oh, well, if the globe people got the no matter what the globe people see, there's a hyperpropensity that they won't be honest about it, and they'll just still continue to try to promote the narrative they believe in already because of the cognitive dissonance and the peer pressure involved. They don't want to be ostracized. They would rather just believe what they're told and be accepted. Because this is why. Look, I want to say this as lovingly as possible, but this is why in Revelation 22, when it talks about the people that cannot get to the gates of the New Jerusalem, they cannot get in, they're outside. One of the descriptors of those people that are outside that can't get into the city of God are cowards. These are people that did not stand for what God said. They shrank back. They were cowardly. They wanted the approval of men more than they did have put faith in what God said for them. So this is why you've heard me on my channel for years, in a very friendly way. I call us fellow brave believers. It takes bravery, it takes courage to believe what God said in this world when there's so many lies that go against what he said. So this is one of those topics where God did speak on it, but the enemy tells people something opposite of what God said, and it shames people, tries to embarrass people, tries to peer pressure people, if you will, into believing the lie. And it takes courage, it takes bravery to believe what's plainly written in the Bible about this topic. So, yeah, it's a big topic.
Here, Jeran, let's address that. Well, how are you compromised? Because I know you pretty well. I mean, you could be. I mean, there's no way I could prove it or not. You live a couple thousand miles away from me, but I don't see anything about you that's compromised. You're just taking a different position, and some people are crapping their diapers over it, to be blunt.
I don't get it. Again, I allow people to have other beliefs. So I don't know why it wouldn't be just reciprocated. And that's not, how could that be in the nature of being a flat earther? You should never be like, oh, we're a flat earther now we're a cult. And everybody has to believe the exact same thing. I always say this, if two people believe the same thing, one of you is useless. One of you should go away. The kind of one of the cool things about being a human is that we all have different opinions, we all have different beliefs, we all have different ideas. That's what makes it very diverse. If we all believe the same thing, there would be one item on a menu when we went to a restaurant.
Chicken fingers.
There for everybody. So there'd be one channel on TV. Life would be miserable. But that's what truthers believe that they are gearing for, is they want everybody to believe. And if they ask you, you could believe everything the same, right? You believe 9/11, you believe this, but then they're like, January 6th, that girl Ashley Babbitt didn't die. I'm like, actually, I think she did. You're a shill. Like, no, we believe everything the same.
Shill callers. I'm so over the shill callers. But I've been saying this for years now. Wayne and I talk about this all the time. It's like, nobody's a shill. There's a few people, to be perfectly blunt and honest, there are like one or two people where I really do have some questions about. You're not one of them. I think you'd have to be doing a lot more for me to have super red flags about you. There are a few people that I'm like, you got to wonder sometimes. But for the most part, I don't think there are shills. I don't think the government or what's above the government, is more to the point, gives a shit. It doesn't matter.
I think that if anything, it's much better to have people that truly believe in things promoting them than to ever have people lying, because liars is a liability. If you have to pay Neil deGrasse to pretend that the Earth is a ball, it's a liability, because he could at any time be like, shit, what I'm doing is wrong, and I need to come out and be, that's the scary thing. To where if Neil deGrasse Tyson really believes it, and he really went to school and he really got his degree, then he just thinks he's smart. He thinks he's the cat's ass. He thinks he promotes this to children. So his brain won't even allow him to conceive that he's wrong, because with that comes a lot of shit that he's gonna have to deal with internally, like lying to children, like thinking you're smart when you've been fooled. So to me, it just seems like they would rather have people that really believe things than to pay people to lie about things. And that's what a shill, basically when you call it a shill, you're basically saying somebody's been approached and told the Earth is flat, but you're going to do this direction, you're going to take people down this road, which is ridiculous. It's just, I haven't seen any evidence of that. The only person, like I said, that a shill is who gets there early and then sets up in a way that makes the mark happen. And Eric Dubay was here first, and Eric Dubay has demonized every single person that's ever come and made a video.
Was he before everybody else? I thought Matt Powerland was slightly before him.
Might be around the same time.
I could be wrong though.
But he was the first one that came with like a full written book, 200 proofs, and it was like, here's the map. He had the map all done. We knew the A map. So again, could it just be a coincidence? It could be. But also a shill is the person who gets there early, sets it up so that the mark can happen. And if he kind of introduced it and then just demonized every flat earther that came along, that's why we're so segmented. As I've said, if Eric would have at any point stood up and said, I'll be flat earth president, we would have all said amen. We would have rallied.
I think he's just a bit of a douchey human being. I mean, let's just be blunt here.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I mean, it is what it is. And I'm always open to be wrong about anybody. But all this crap of shill calling and all that, well, to me, if you're going to do something like this, there better be some evidence of large amounts of money being exchanged, because that's the only reason anybody would do any of it. And guess what? I have uncovered some stuff of certain conspiracy topics that there's some dirty pool going on here. And I've had some stuff said to me in confidence, but it certainly made me look at things in certain ways that, hey, that there are people who get paid off to do things. And I'm not talking about flat earth. I'm talking about other things. But yeah, there's some things where that does go on, and you got to wonder why.
Yeah. Sorry, she was talking. What? Yeah, put the Tesla in the garage. Thank you. All right. Sorry, I was going to say. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. People around with that. I don't think I'm being serious. It's a joke. Come on. I have a 2017 Jeep. What's it called? Compass. No, Patriot. There you go. There you go. I was going to get you this contract, but I can't find it. Where is it?
Well, I think we've gone through it also. If you want to discuss the contract, and then I think
questions.
I think we beat the subject.
Yeah, I mean,
the people who think you're a great big doo-doo head are always going to think you're a great big doo-doo head, no matter what we say or do. And I don't care what anybody else thinks. I have my own opinions. That's why Crow 777 Radio is so successful, and why we keep to ourselves, and we don't join groups, and we don't come out swinging about different opinions and all this crap, because this isn't about
that. That's what Crow told me the very first time I ever talked to him was,
yep,
try to get him to come on a show with me or something. And he's like, no, let me just warn you that I like the work you're doing, but don't join any groups.
Don't join groups. And we've always stuck to that.
Yep. And he was right, because every time I did, something happened to where, I was with F.
Well, the way he said it to me when we first got to be friends, he goes, look, if you join a group and then one person out of all those people in that group starts humping chickens in their front yard, then guess what? you're all humping chickens in your front yard. It's a very funny way to say it, but basically you're going to get painted with the same brush. And he's totally spot on, and I've stuck to that. And now we're like 7+ years that Crow and I have been doing this, and we're extremely successful, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And we're going to just stick to what works.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense. I mean, he was dead right, because I've seen it. I've seen people who have gone down that road, or have to protect their group, or it's the Nathan Oakley group. Like they become their own faction, and part of the faction, there's like rules. The rules are Austin Witzett's an idiot. The rules are, it's like, and they have to all toe that company line. I mean, come on. If somebody's telling you that Austin Witzett's an idiot, that's pretty much all the information you need from them. Oh yeah, he's a real dumb guy. Yeah, all right. Sure.
Well, this is all cult of personality with egos clashing too. Let's be freaking real about that.
Of course, yeah. Trying to find this for you. What was the date of the?
Well, if you don't have it, that's cool. I really think we went through what I wanted to go through just to give you a place where, like, I have no dog in this fight. I don't care. Like, whatever comes out, it comes out. And I just didn't like the fact that people are just shitting all over you.
I don't mind. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean,
it bugs me. It's like, come on, what are you doing to change things, to add to the sum total of knowledge?
What's happened though is that, and I know this is part of being a truther, is that you have to have this opinion that anybody on that other side, or anybody saying something against your position, is part of the conspiracy, right? Which is a problem with conspiracies, because basically the lack of evidence becomes evidence of the conspiracy, right? Like you can always, it creates a situation where you can say,
Good and Faithful, he's asking, is our firmament fully submerged in water? Is that what causes the blackness of space? It seems to be fully submerged in water from the description in creation, 2 Peter 2, Genesis 1. There seems to be water under us, fountains of the deep, water above us, comes down through the flood, still up there, Psalm 148. It seems to be that we are fully submerged in water, and that could, without this, what's interesting though is it's what I don't quite understand about the firmament model is the fact that how the sun goes through its gates and shines its light down on the earth, which seems as if it would have to shine through that water. But I don't know. I don't, because like anyone that's seen a high altitude balloon, you get above the oxygenated layer of the atmosphere, and then above you it's blackness. And so how does that work with the sun shining down where it doesn't light up the blackness? What is it? How does that work? I just don't quite understand that, because I personally believe that the sun is behind layers of the firmament. To my understanding, it would be in the third layer. From what I feel like is a description in Revelation 12 about where the sun would be shining down as a luminary on the earth. And I know that it has its own tabernacle, so to speak, its own compartments that it can go and make its circumference in the heaven above as it goes through the different gates throughout the year. And so I've always wondered, like, how does that work? There seems to be the firmament was designed with some sort of optical effects that are built into it, that doesn't allow us to see through it. Otherwise, we would see the upper layers where the angels live, and you know what I'm saying, that we would see upper layers above, according to the biblical description of the heavens above. So I do believe that we're surrounded by water. I don't exactly know how the firmament produces or gives us the appearance of the blackness of what the heliocentric model will call space, with the luminary shining down through it. But then we can look up and it still seems black. We can't see anything beyond it. And it just is very interesting. It's very interesting. And we do our best with biblical cosmology to try to piece together all the descriptions of it throughout history and throughout the different manuscripts. But could be wrong. I'm not gonna say that, I believe that the information that Wes Blaze and I have tried to put together, and Ken Heidebrecht and I have tried to put together, as far as piecing together like the ancient descriptions from ancient Israelite literature on how this thing was described, from the prophets and from other men that were considered to be in the know, so to speak, that it seems to make sense. But it could be a sense of the way the light is received by the firmament itself and is projected down through the layers of the firmament to get to the earth. I've always felt like that water covering is a beautiful buffer for the radiating heat of the sun. That without that water, the sun would be brighter and even more hot. And it seems as if that's what's happening on the day of the Lord. In Isaiah chapter 30, it's talking about the sun and the moon start shining 7 times brighter than normal, which is the day of the Lord passage. And another day of the Lord passage is in Revelation, where it talks about people will start getting intense boils on them. And I don't know if that's from the sun creating extra radiating heat exposure on them. But because, as Revelation 21 talks about, there is no more sea once the actual firmament opens up and the New Jerusalem starts to descend. So it's almost as if in preparation for Yeshua, the angels to come down, and the New Jerusalem to come down, that sea that is no more, it somehow is pushed away or subsided over from the top of the firmament and pushed down to the sides, so that it just doesn't flood in again once the actual large portion is that once the sunroof, if you will, is open so that the New Jerusalem can descend, it just doesn't flood in a whole bunch of water anymore. That would also be a reasoning why the sun suddenly starts becoming 7 times brighter than normal, and which would also mean it's going to be hotter. So it's an interesting topic it's the properties, the observable properties from the descriptions of Scripture, from the firmament and the waters that are still above, that's been separated by the firmament. It's hard to explain all the effects that we see. It's without being able to test it, in some way, it's hard to explain all that. It's a great question. But speaking of, somebody sent me this clip. I guess there's a new movie that came out, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but apparently, the new Spider-Man movie or the new Venom movie. Apparently, one of the aliens, they ask one of the aliens in the movie, what do you think about? Or no, they say what's out there, what's outside our solar system, or and the alien is like, oh, it's this whole solar system or this whole universe is like surrounded by a dark sea. And I was just like, that's crazy. Maybe I don't know if I can find it or not. I also don't know if I can play it either. It'd probably get my stream taken down. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know the clip or the part of the movie, but either way, it's interesting. If that's somehow in the narrative of this, sci-fi movie. Yeah, there is lots of optics we don't understand. Lost Sheep Ministries. Brother, I don't know. I can't remember where I got these. It came as a pitcher with 2 mugs. I guess the brand is Carver. You guys are about to witness something. Showing my age here. This writing's like way too small for me. Karigar, Kaarigar, KarigarHandicrafts.com. Yeah, it's 100% copper. Yeah, the study guide. My goal is once all the books. My goal is once all the books are completed, I want to have I'm gonna, find like a Bible, people that make Bibles, and actually be able to make it. I'll have to make it with like that thin paper. It's just going to be, it's just going to take some negotiating because of all the color that's involved. But the goal is to, put them all together in one binded volume, and be able for people to use it like that. I am actually going to make collections like all the Gospels. I'm thinking about doing the Pauline letters collection. I'm thinking about doing the other collections. Like a collection once I finish Genesis through Deuteronomy. I'm thinking about doing like a collection of 7, like Genesis, um, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Enoch, and Jubilees. Maybe not in that order, but that like those 7 books as a collection that you could get by itself in a special collection. But ultimately, it's they'll be available for digital download on your Kindles as well as for purchase in either a collection format or one big book. I don't know if I'm going to publish all of them individually. I just don't know if I'll do that yet. But and then yes, 42 is returning as soon as I can. The next one I've been doing it's about the Catholic Church, and there's just so much information to go through. And if anyone has worried, in the past, is like when I do these particular installments in the 42 series, that it takes a lot of effort just finding the right vein of the information to share, as far as not just giving an information dump and overload, but I have to go through because I'm drawing out of it a specific point. And so I can't just say everything, otherwise I'd be on stream for like 5 days. So to put it into a 2 to 3 hour presentation, I have to like really weed through a ton of information. And on top of having a child and a whole bunch of other things, with my consulting with Lighthouse in this past year, and they're doing their beta and everything that they just finished completing and all that. So it's just been a really busy time for me this past year, and I haven't been able to get back to the 42 series for a variety of reasons. But I am actively compiling my notes again in the last several months and trying to consolidate the information into an actual teaching for that next installment.
Oh, if that guy's saying this, he's lying. But if he's saying that, he's not. It's like when we use NASA sometimes as evidence against NASA. You seen that? Where people say, oh, the Van Allen belts. Well, yeah, but NASA came up with that. NASA's the one that has Van Allen belts. So you're using the Van Allen belts that NASA reports to say that they're not doing what NASA reports are doing. That's just a little bit funky. Now, again, I get why we do that, but it's
Tim, no, brother, I don't. I don't think that the final experiment is going to solve this argument or debate for either side.
It does create a world where you always have to do that, right? So if Jeran and Austin are going on this trip, and this trip might potentially do something bad to flat Earth, then Jeran and Austin must be part of the conspiracy, because people just can't rationalize the opposite of that, which is just we're just guys going down there. I've heard people saying, well, why did Jeran and Witzik get selected? We didn't get selected. It was picked by a poll. It's not selected, like nobody picked us. In fact, Dave Weiss won. So he was asked first, and then I was asked second, and then Austin was third. So it just happens Austin and I. So it's just when you hear these things from other people where they're always saying things that are like, no, that's not true. That's not true. Nope, no, we don't have to say it's a globe just because we see the sun go around. But again, people want their own narratives and they run with them.
Well, Jeran, you must be a show and you must be compromised because you don't believe the same thing that so-and-so believes. So
yes, exactly.
Proof! Illuminati confirmed.
There it is. See, it's so easy.
So stupid.
Okay, so I have this now. I'm going to send it to you on, where do you want it? Just so you have it if you want to read it. Because I'd be interested to know if you think it's a good.
Oh, definitely take a look over it. Yeah, I'm curious.
Text then. Sound good? Beautiful. So what else? Did anybody in the audience have any questions or anything that...
Well, I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. I tried to pick them up, but I'm not really watching the chat that much either. Rose can chime in if she likes, if there's anything specific that we should address that we didn't before we sign off.
Rose, did you see anything in the chat that needs to be answered?
I didn't see anything specific that I remember, but if anybody wants to try and type something in real quick, we could try, see if there's something.
Okay.
So, by the way, my talking and answering questions, they've already completed the broadcast. We're kind of behind by 21 minutes. So they've already ended the broadcast. But you heard the meat of it. That's the idea. He's still planning on going on the trip, and Austin is as well. Supposedly, one of the producers from the Candace Owen podcast is going to be going as well. And I will not be going. appreciate the invitation. Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm not down. I just, with lots of prayer and discussion with my wife, I was just like, you know what? I don't feel called to do that. That's not a focus of our channel anyway. Like I explained midway through this thing, like I didn't come to believe the Bible because of calculations of the, how far the mountains are, or if there's curvature or not, or the movements of the sun in the sky. I come to believe the Bible and its descriptions about life and how life works and where it is I was created from a variety of other evidences that I can prove on a continual daily basis by applying what the Bible says, and I get the results that it claims I get. So I'm not going to go. I don't have the same level of dedication or curiosity for this particular topic as they do. So, much props to Austin and Jeran for wanting to go and do this. And I just pray for their safety. I don't want any shenanigans to be happening. It is inherently it's a trip that could be a prime target for nefarious activity. And that's why I pray for their safety. Cause I just, it's like watching it approach in slow motion, and you're like, do you really want to get cause I told both Jeran and Austin, I'm like, look, go on your own dime, book your own excursion, charter your own planes, ask your audiences to crowdfund it, if go on your own dime, but don't go under this guy who's shown himself to be not very trustworthy. So, that's where, I don't know. There's just a lot. There's a lot that put me off about this particular concept that I wouldn't want to go anyway. So I do appreciate being thought of, but at the same time, it's not for me. Yeah, Hunter, I have a show. It's not the origins of Kabbalah, but it is how Kabbalah is deeply intrinsically rooted in Judaism. And we touch on Hermeticism in the 42 series, but as far as the Kabbalah, it's actually I think it's in part 4 of my contextual study guide of Galatians series. So it should be in my Galatians playlist, but it's part 4. There's like a 40-minute segment in there where I review and react to a rabbi who's explaining how Kabbalah is intrinsically tied into Judaism. And he kind of goes over what Kabbalah is and everything. And so, but I haven't done like a full-on dedicated video just to that topic. Yeah, I may do one in the future, Jasper, as far as this Abomination of Desolation. I don't really, to me, it's not like a big thing. It was a synonymous, it was a concept that was commonly referred to as basically when the invading nations would come and take over the head pantheon god and his temple in that whatever nation they just invaded or attacked, they would then go in and sacrifice something profane to that god on their altar. So this happened in AD 70 with Titus. I believe it was Titus who went into Jerusalem and sacrificed a pig and a bull and a lamb on the altar to Yahweh and desecrated the temple. So, all right, guys, I got to go. My little man needs me. Looks like he just woke up. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. Fun little watch party. So we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.